memory, which is a feeling. So we don't often have imagery for that. We don't often have words because where there has been trauma or problems in the past, the biggest issue that you've got with that is it's not usually just one incident. In which case, one incident, a single incident or a couple of incidences that you took on board and they were really big for you, are actually really easy to get rid of. Really easy, hypnotherapy speak. When you've got something that happened to you continually over a period of time and it wasn't necessarily super traumatic, it's insidious then because you're entraining a response to that later on you have that response and you may say things like, I don't even know why I have that response. So here's how it goes down. You keep doing that for an hour. And I'm saying do it for an hour and don't just do it once. What happens over that hour is the thoughts start to run out. They literally do. They start to run out. They crescendo, they pop from here to here, and then there's a little bit less and it's not so important, and then they start to run out, and then you do it again the next day for an hour. You make yourself do it for an hour, and you may not need to do it again after that. That's how quickly you can get on top of this stuff, because it's the distraction that holds it in play, because you're not allowing it to work its way out of your body or out of your mind. And our emotions or our feelings are held in our body, not in our mind. So the mind is responding to those things. And so you have a problem with somebody, say you get angry with them, then your mind, your body, goes back to the memory of being angry and why you were angry. And this was something really profound for me after I'd separated from a partner who abused me for 8 years, physically. We're talking about beating. After that period of time, we'd been separated for a few years and I was very happy. I was living a really good life. I was doing all of this meditation stuff. I was really seeking out spiritual solutions. I was misdirected in that. It took a lot longer than it should have, and that's why I do what I do now, and that's why I do things the way I do them. I don't think people need to go through those hard yards for as long as I did and as long as a lot of people do. If you're doing something for 10 years and calling it spiritual healing and you're not here yet, psychology or otherwise, then you're not really doing it. So we need to bring that back and understand that the self-realization phase isn't really the longest phase. Self-actualization is longer insofar as where it's taking you. So we come back to the self-realization and that understanding that with these thoughts, it doesn't mean that you're not spiritual because you have a negative thought about something. It means you're not allowing yourself to take the time. So once you get rid of the bulk of it in that hour, the next time you get a bit upset, you sit down for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and let all of the negative thoughts flow into your mind and flow out. Just look at a wall, blank ceiling, doesn't matter what. As long as it's not stimulating you in any way, what will happen is your mind will get on the job and do what it does when you relax. If you feel anxious a lot, the chances are that all of the reasons that you've got to feel anxious are going to come into your mind. And it's true. If you feel angry a lot, all of the reasons you have to be angry and the people in your past that you were angry with will come into your mind. And that's okay. That's it. You're not trying to suppress it. Suppression is what psychologists do, essentially, when they get you to talk about all of your past and they go, we're going to stay in this past, we're going to talk about it, we're going to talk about it every week, we're going to talk about it, we're going to do EDMR, and we're going to do all of these things to talk about your past, and essentially that's distracting. Because they're looking for the word blame, only bringing it back to you as opposed to saying, I accept responsibility for how I feel. And so I'm going to let myself feel it. One of the questions that came up with a student was she was working with a client of hers or a friend, and while she was giving this friend energy therapy, the friend cried. Now this happens a lot, by the way. Sometimes it's sobbing, sometimes it's just tears, and very often they'll say, I don't know why I'm crying. And I let them get away with that, but I know they know exactly why they're crying. Usually there's a thought or a memory or an idea that pops into their mind, and all they're telling me is they haven't consciously laid there doing nothing for long enough to allow their thoughts to evolve, to allow them to go through their mind and leave. And with the energy work, with energy in play, very often this is accelerated. So it comes into the mind and then they just relax past it. And so we are needing to understand that the process of eliminating past hurts, angers, injustice, thinking the world isn't fair, thinking relationships aren't fair, thinking somebody else isn't fair, thinking that I should never be offended by anybody ever, because if I can't be offended by anybody ever, you're saying they're not allowed to talk to me. That's what you're saying. And if they can't talk to me and they happen to be my partner and there's a problem they want to resolve, I am using my sensitivity against them. And my sensitivity comes from my past. It doesn't come from our relationship. Therefore, I am now living in the past. And so to be present, we come back to being present. To be present, we must first drain that jug. And you can't be present when you have responses to your connections to your past. And the more you talk about that, I'm going to be very clear about this as well, the more you talk to people about that, and I don't mean in a dispassionate way. When I mention my past now, I have no real emotional connection to it. I've got a couple of things still, maybe, but at the same time, it's just relating something. And I can remember the first time I realised that I wasn't emotionally connected to it any longer was I was telling a person about how we were treated growing up, and that person started looking at me a bit horrified, and I said, "Are you all right?" And she says, "That's a terrible thing that you lived through there." And I said, "You know what, it was a long time ago." And she said, "Oh, you can't be okay with it." And I said, "It wasn't okay that it was done, but yeah, I am okay. I wasn't okay for years, but now I am." And so this is the thing, that a person that says you can't be okay is telling you that they're not okay with what's going on with them. There's your commonality. And if you create a relationship with that person and two of you have got something that's not okay, you will have a muddy, difficult, challenging relationship because you'll keep pushing those buttons for each other, just so as we're clear on that. So as you allow that jug to empty, and you do that a few times, you actually are in the present. You realise I can look around. I'm not worried about tomorrow or yesterday or what went on there because my mind is now right here and it's actually pretty nice right here. That means if I'm going to think about tomorrow, it's going to be productive. If I'm going to think about yesterday, it's going to be, what did I learn from that? It's not going to be, I'm in this story and I'm a victim, or I am angry, or I am anxious, or whatever it is. And you'll know what that feeling is because it sits with you a lot. And that's why I disagree with the word trigger for anything that's not just superficial, really, because, for anything that isn't like really deep, because it's there all the time. And so another person isn't triggering it. You're looking for the moment to express it and bring it out into the open in your body. And why would your body and mind do that? So you can get rid of it. It's not just to upset you. Your brain, your mind, your body isn't there to ruin your life. It's there to allow these things to be released. So it reminds you, you've got this. If you're having really bad dreams, you've got this. This is a fear. This fear doesn't make you a victim, but you've got it. You're the one who owns it. You're the one who has it. You're the one who uses it. And so you could use that fear of something that might have happened in the past, which could have been just threats that never eventuated or did. You could have had a parent that threatened you consistently with a hiding. We all had a bit of that, in my day anyway. And so then you get to a point where you realise, well, the threat was always there, and now and again it would really happen and it would be brutal. And so the fear was used as a control mechanism by that parent over the children, right? And so as you get a little bit older, anxiety becomes a part of your lifestyle. And I mean lifestyle. It's like a lifestyle anorexic. There's a question, an anorexic who doesn't eat till they die has a mental disorder. A person who eats just enough to be able to live that lifestyle of not having to work, of maybe staying home for their adulthood, of having a lot of attention. They'll see a doctor once a week, they'll see a psychologist once a week, and there's a lot of attention, by the way. And there's a couple of twins in Australia in particular that are regularly in women's magazines being interviewed and photographed, and they run and they're exercising. So it's not that they're not eating or they would be dead. It's that they're eating just enough to survive. So it's a lifestyle choice for them that gets them a lot of attention and possibly by now has got them quite a bit of money over the years. So that becomes this question of what kind of a lifestyle do your deeper feelings present you with. And when you can sit quietly and do nothing and let all of those thoughts come in and come out and drain that jug, then after you've done that, then you start with, okay, there's that jug, I can see it's full, there's a little dribble coming out, and you'll notice each time you do it, something deeper comes. I've got a meditation or hypnotherapy that I talked about the other day called the 3 Gates, and I'm mentioning that again for the same reason. There's a first session that you do with that. It's not a really long hypnotherapy, but when you do it, superficial expected stuff comes up. When you do it the second time, You get a certain amount of that, but there's a different kind of reasoning. Something goes a bit deeper the third time, fourth time, fifth time. By the time you get to the fifth time, you're getting to something really deep. And you can feel it is, and you know it is, and it may not have an image, it may not have words with it, because now you're exploring just a feeling. And that's the limiting feeling, which is what the Three Gates is about, a self-limiting belief, a self-limiting feeling. There's something that prevents me living in a way that in accordance with the way that I feel that I could be, should be, or want to be. Because if you don't have that conflict, you don't have a problem. And that's the other side of that coin. When I was thinking about, what is a problem? A problem is simply something we're not dealing with. Nothing more, nothing less. And it stays a problem as long as we're distracted from it, as opposed to letting it just come and present itself to us. So why do we resist that? Why do we avoid it? Mostly it's because we maybe want to stay in that victim mode. Maybe there is a purchase like the girls with the anorexia in Australia. They're getting something big out of that. Is it healthy? No, it's not. There are people who don't want to make changes. There are people who have a horrible, messy life, but they don't see themselves as the problem. There's always going to be that going on in the world, and that's fine, absolutely fine. But then there are those that have a conflict, and the conflict comes when you are in yourself, and that's what we call spiritual development, really, or personal development. In yourself, you are looking at how you behave, or something you said, or how you've created certain things in your life, or broken them down, whichever comes which, and then you're not happy with that, and you feel like you could do better, or you feel like it doesn't match or resonate with something deep inside you. And those are your inklings that the way that you're presenting yourself in life is not necessarily the way that reflects who you are as a person. The further away we are from that person, the more we hide the truth of that person, the deeper in the do we get. Literally, the deeper in the do, the deeper in a story, the deeper in an image, the deeper in a facade, where in the end you feel false, you feel fake. These are the problems that aren't about development specifically, but they are the problems that lead to an understanding that we want development. And all of these are still in that self-realization zone. You cannot have level 1 consciousness without resolving this first. Now, if you've got trauma, that's the only time that I change it up a little bit and say you may need hypnotherapy, you may need assistance to cut to the chase, because the trauma held in the body, say if there were dead bodies, if you were beaten up, is a physical survival. And that's a little bit different, because we can't just say to ourselves, I'm going to think my way through so that I don't need that survival mechanism anymore. So when it's not actual trauma, then it's an experience that you've had that was unpleasant, and all the right words that you want to apply to it, but it's not trauma really. And so I think if we separate those two things out, you'll do a lot better, because you can deal with things that are non-traumatic, that are playing a role in your life, and then see what's left. And if there's something deep and serious, the problem isn't that people don't remember it, the problem is that people can't forget it. So a person with trauma that's the biggest difference. They cannot forget what happened to them, or the experience that they had, that extreme fear, whatever it might have been. If they've been in a war state, or if they've been abused sexually or otherwise, or physically abused, there's a state of fear which becomes survival. And so I think those are two different things, and I think you can do a really good job of stepping past one without too much interference and help, just by letting all of those thoughts, angers, because that's years of build-up of stuff, years of distraction, playing computer games, playing on the internet. Before the internet, people got stoned and they got drunk, and they're still doing that now, plus they're doing any other distraction they can find. So just think around your life, and how do you distract yourself? I know meditation can be a distraction. Going in, listening to nice music and blissing out doesn't necessarily allow these thoughts to just come. So we take that out as well. We make it very pure. I hope that might help you today. I'm Dorothy. Ciao for now.